Good day to all. Today we will discuss about mood stabilizers. This is a very short session. Okay, it's a very small topic. Okay, so the discussion will not go for longer duration. Anyways, from the title only, you can understand that these are the drugs which somehow affect on mood. Okay, right? The thing is, you already saw the drugs used in the management of depression. The depression is also a disorder which affects the mood of the patient. Okay, somehow there is a difference in how these drugs, that is the mood stabilizers, act when compared to the antidepressants. Okay, right. So in this discussion we will first look into the clinical features of mood disorders, focusing on bipolar disorder. Okay, now because bipolar disorder is a disorder where the mood fluctuates on either sides, whereas the major depressive disease, the mood fluctuates only on the depressive side. So after going through the clinical features of mood disorders focusing on bipolar disorders, we will look into the various drugs used in the pharmacotherapeutic management of mood disorders. Okay, so they are kinetics, their dynamics, their formulations, their adverse drug reactions, and their uses. And then we will discuss about the treatment plan and treatment regimen for mood disorders, especially focusing on bipolar disorders. And then we will conclude the session. Okay, so as I already told you, the mood stabilizers are the drugs which will prevent the pathological fluctuations of the mood. You have to understand the difference here between the antidepressant drugs and the mood stabilizers. Okay, antidepressants, they act by elevating the mood, whereas as the name suggests here, mood stabilizers, they elevate the mood is depressed, and they depress the mood is elevated. Okay, so that is why antidepressants are not at all used in the management of mood disorders, which is bipolar disorder here, except for fluoxetine. Okay, we will see to that later. Okay, right. Now when we talk about the mood disorder focusing on bipolar disorder, because when we talk about the disorder which causes mood fluctuations, almost all of them fall under this category called bipolar disorder. In bipolar disorder, we have both depression and mania, which occurs in cycles. Okay, which occurs in the cycles of 2 to 3 months. Okay, and in this case usually the patient will present with mania rather than depression. It is the manic symptoms which will not be tolerated by the people around rather than the depressive symptoms, and usually the patient will come for the management of mania rather than depression. But very few times people do land up in OPD with depressive symptoms, who will be later on diagnosed with bipolar disorder after evaluation. Sometimes what happens is, especially if the patient who has bipolar disorder and is given antidepressant drug, the problem is it will cause precipitation of mania. Okay, so it's a dicey situation when the patient presents with depressive symptoms. It is we have to be meticulous to diagnose whether this depression is due to major depressive disorder or due to bipolar disorder. Right. So scientifically speaking, bipolar disorder is a mood disorder that is characterized by episodes of mania, hypomania, and major depression. We have seen this already. So let us see the clinical features of mania. as when we talk about our mood, sometimes our mood will be elevated when we are happy, and when we are sad our mood will be depressed. So that is normal. Okay, when whether the elevated mood or the depressive mood crosses a threshold, then that is a problem. Yeah. When the elevated mood crosses a threshold, we call it as mania, and when the depressed mood crosses the threshold, we call it as depression. Okay. So what are the clinical features of mania? Mania is characterized by a distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive or irritable mood, and abnormally and persistently increased activity or energy, lasting at least 1 week and present most of the day, nearly every day. This is self-explanatory. Basically, if the patient shows symptoms of elevated mood over the period of 1 week, then we diagnose mania. Then what is hypomania? Everything is same except for the duration through which the pathological elevated mood occurs. Basically, here also we have abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive and irritable mood, and abnormally and persistently increased activity or energy, lasting for at least 4 consecutive days. In mania it is 1 week. For hypomania it is at least 4 days. Right. When we talk about the depressive episodes associated with the bipolar disorder, the diagnosis is more or less same like that of our major depressive disorder. It's like 5 or more of the following symptoms which have been present during the same 2-week period. That is, for mania it should be for 1 week period, but for depressive disorder it is for a 2-week period, and it is characterized by depressed mood, diminished interest, significant weight loss, either insomnia or hypersomnia, psychomotor agitation or retardation, loss of energy, excessive guilty feeling, diminished ability to think or concentrate, and the recurrent thoughts of death. As I already said, even the depressive disorders also have the same characters, signs and symptoms. So we have to rule out bipolar disorder before starting the antidepressants. It's actually, antidepressants are not at all recommended in the management of bipolar disorder. I will say it again. If we give antidepressants in bipolar disorders during a depressive episode, it will actually precipitate mania. Okay, right. Now when we talk about the types of bipolar disorder, there are majorly 2 types. Type 1, which is characterized by both mania and major depressive episode, whereas type 2 is characterized by major depressive episode and hypomania. Here mania is not present, and there are other variants like rapid recyclers. When the cycles of both mania and depressive episodes occurs in less than a month period, then they're called rapid recyclers. Okay, but the treatment plan is more or less the same for all the disorders. Okay, so we can club everything together. Now we'll talk about the various drugs used in the management of bipolar disorders. Again, I will iterate, antidepressants are not used in the management of bipolar disorder except for fluoxetine. Then we have antipsychotics, we have anticonvulsants and lithium. So the drugs used in the management of bipolar disorders are antipsychotics, anticonvulsants and lithium. Lithium is the major drug here. Okay, so we'll start with lithium. Okay, lithium is usually given as lithium carbonate. Lithium carbonate is given in the form of tablets, which is either as an immediate release preparation or sustained release preparation. Lithium is also available as lithium citrate. When we talk about mechanism of action, there are actually various mechanism of actions postulated on how lithium actually works in controlling the bipolar disorder. But usually most of the not most, all of the psychiatric disorders, when we analyze deeply, there is always some organic level damage. Some neurons are damaged, or some neurons are always abnormal. Okay, so when we look into various experimental studies, most of the drugs used in the management of various psychiatric disorders have some type of neuroprotective effect. They achieve this neuroprotection by various means. Okay, and let's see how the lithium acts and how it achieves the neuroprotection. So this was for initial mechanism of action which was postulated. Then later on, various experimental studies revealed other mechanism of actions also. Basically, you can see this is the figure which talks about the G protein coupled receptor of Q type, GQ type. Okay, wherein we have phospholipase C, okay, which cleaves phosphoinositol diphosphate to inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol. Okay. And this inositol is recycled back to phosphoinositol diphosphate. Okay, right. Lithium inhibits this inositol recycling by acting on various levels, but majorly it inhibits the conversion of inositol diphosphate to inositol monophosphate and inositol monophosphate to inositol. So inositol is trapped and no inositol is available for the formation of phosphoinositol diphosphate, thereby decreasing the activity of the GQ receptor. Okay. Lithium inhibits various enzymes. Okay, let's say inhibits inositol monophosphatase, which is a rate limiting enzyme for inositol recycling. It inhibits inositol polyphosphate 1-phosphatase, again which is also involved in inositol recycling. It also inhibits bisphosphonate nucleotidase. It's an enzyme which is involved in AMP production. It decreases the AMP production, but still we do not know the relevance. But anyhow, this is actually associated, this may be associated with the adverse drug reactions of lithium. Then it inhibits fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase, which is involved in gluconeogenesis. It also inhibits phosphoglucomutase, again which is involved in glycogenolysis. Okay, then we have the glycogen synthase kinase. This is important because this enzyme actually affects the neuroprotective process by inhibiting glycogen synthase kinase 3 enzyme. The lithium enhances the neuroprotection. Basically, it prevents the neuronal damage. Okay, right. Moreover, lithium also inhibits norepinephrine sensitive adenylyl cyclase, and it also uncouples the vasopressin and thyroid stimulating hormone receptors from the G proteins. So thereby it blunts the action of vasopressin and thyroid stimulating hormone. Those things we will see in the adverse drug reactions. They do not contribute to the management of mania, but this is the mechanism of action for adverse drug reactions. Okay, so when we talk about the pharmacokinetics of lithium, as we already saw, lithium is available as lithium carbonate and lithium citrate as tablets. It's given orally, either as immediate release preparation or sustained release preparation. Lithium, being a simple salt, is usually completely absorbed. Okay, nothing is left unabsorbed. It is usually absorbed in 8 hours. Initially it is distributed in the extracellular fluid and it gradually accumulates throughout the body, because if you see the periodic table, lithium and sodium falls in the same column. Okay, so lithium will occupy all the places where sodium is present. So that's why the final volume of distribution for lithium is as good as the whole body water. Okay, being lithium carbonate being a simple salt, it's not it will not bind to any plasma proteins, just like our sodium chloride will not bind to any plasma proteins. As we already saw, the volume of distribution is total body water. And again, lithium being a simple salt, it can cross blood-brain barrier easily. Of course, we do expect that the drug should cross the blood-brain barrier to act on central nervous system to manage the various psychiatric illness, right? Okay. And in very bigger settings or in a research settings, the brain level of lithium can be actually monitored by MRI, but it's not usually done in the clinical practice. Lithium is majorly eliminated by kidneys. The elimination half-life averages to 20 to 24 hours. Basically, the T half is 1 day. Okay, but because lithium and sodium competes with the receptors, excessive sodium loss is actually will actually cause lithium retention. If you think about it, when the distal tubule of the kidney is exposed to more sodium, okay, because the absorption rate of sodium will be more during that time, it will simultaneously absorb lithium also, thereby will cause lithium retention. So that's why giving diuretics will actually cause lithium retention. Okay. Then when we talk about interactions usually it will be either kinetic interaction or dynamic interaction. Kinetic interactions which we have already seen, that is the diuretics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs promote retention, right? And if we see about dynamic interaction, basically when the lithium is combined with antipsychotic drugs, so there is a synergistic increase in the extrapyramidal side effects. It's not a desirable interaction, but anyways, the interaction do occur with antipsychotics at the pharmacodynamic level. Yes, therapeutic drug monitoring, TDM, it is very, very important for lithium. Okay, because lithium is one of the few drugs which has a narrow therapeutic window. Okay, the concentration has to be has to be in a very narrow window, below which there will be loss of effect, above which there will be troublesome adverse drug reactions. Usually the drug levels should be maintained between 0.6 to 1.5 milliequivalents per liter. Levels between 0.6 to 1 milliequivalent per liter are considered adequate for long-term prophylaxis. Okay, so usually because we already saw that the half-life of lithium is 1 day. 5 half-life is 5 days. So the concentration stabilizes after 5 days of giving lithium pharmacotherapy. Okay. So we will usually perform therapeutic drug monitoring after 5 days of lithium therapy, and that too trough concentrations are measured. That means the blood will be withdrawn immediately before administering the drug. Okay. The trough concentration should lie between 0.6 to 1.5 milliequivalent per liter. So if the concentration shows to be 0.3, then we have to increase the dose, and if the concentration shows to be 1.7, and if it manifests clinically with various toxic symptoms, then we will have to reduce the dosage of the drug. Okay. Now, what are the uses of lithium? Of course, we are talking about bipolar disorders, so lithium is one of the major drugs used in the management of bipolar disorder. Okay, it's used for both. It's used in the management of both for the treatment and for the prophylaxis. Okay, that is treatment means it will manage both the depressive episodes and manic episodes, and patients sometimes will be clear of these episodes in between. During that time also lithium is given, okay, so that the patient will not land up with more mania or depressive episodes. And sometimes lithium can be used in the management of treatment resistant depression when the patient does not respond when a depressive disorder, major depressive disorder patient does not respond to the usual antidepressants, then lithium can be tried. Lithium can be used in the management of schizoaffective disorder, and there are various trials where lithium have been tried in degenerative disorders like Parkinsonism and all, okay, with varying results. Right now we will ignore them. Just just know that they are being tried in various neurodegenerative disorder studies. Okay. Yeah, this is very important to understand the adverse drug reactions for lithium. Okay, there are various organ systems which manifest the adverse drug reactions of lithium, which manifest the side effects of lithium. One is of course the central nervous system. Then there are ADRs which can be manifested in skin. Then there are ADRs which are associated with cardiovascular system, ADRs associated with endocrine system, and ADRs associated with renal system. Lithium can cause tremor, which is dose dependent and can be managed with propranolol. Propranolol is one of the standard drugs used in the management of various types of tremors. Okay. Then lithium in toxic doses or in larger doses can cause ataxia, can cause slurred speech. Sometimes a little loss of muscle tone is also contributes to ataxia. Lithium can sometimes be epileptogenic. When we talk about the ADRs associated with kidneys, we already saw that there is an uncoupling between the vasopressin receptors and the G proteins. Okay, so that will basically the kidneys will fail to respond to vasopressin, thereby causing nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, which manifests as polyuria and polydipsia. Especially patients who are exposed to sustained release lithium preparations are more prone for polyuria and polydipsia, that is nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. And because there is uncoupling of TSH receptors and G proteins, there will be diffuse enlargement of thyroid because of more TSH being secreted from pituitary, and it manifests as hypothyroidism. When we talk about the abnormalities in the cardiovascular system, there is actually flattening of T waves in the electrocardiogram, and toxic doses might lead to conduction defects or conduction block. When we talk about ADRs associated with skin, it causes worsening of acne, psoriasis and allergic diseases. Use of lithium is very much controversial in pregnancy and lactation because lithium is a category D drug. That means the side effects are really more when compared to the beneficial effects. Only when the benefit is really outweighs the risk, then we should go for lithium. Otherwise we should try to avoid lithium in the pregnancy and lactation. Basically, when the women in early pregnancy are exposed to lithium, they cause cardiac abnormalities of newborn. There is a classical abnormality called Einstein's malformation. Lithium causes this Einstein malformation. Basically, what happens here is, so this is the normal tricuspid valve, whereas in Einstein's malformation, the septal and posterior leaflets, are displaced towards the apex. You can see that the right atrium is abnormally enlarged. So this is Einstein's malformation. It also causes exacerbation of maternal polyuria. It can cause floppy baby syndrome. In floppy baby syndrome, you can see that there is a loss of muscle tone, and the baby cannot hold up its head. Okay, right. It can even cause fetal goiter. So when there is lithium intoxication, of course the side effects will get exacerbated. The patient might land up in coma also. There will be exacerbation of severe symptoms. Basically, there will be conduction deficit and conduction arrest. It's associated with GI symptoms like vomiting and diarrhea. There is no specific antidote for lithium intoxication. We have to support the patient to maintain the airway, breathing and circulation. Even with supportive measures, if the patient do not respond, we need to undergo dialysis. Dialysis has to be prescribed to those patients undergoing dialysis has to be prescribed to the patients with lithium intoxication who do not respond to supportive measures. Then the next drug, which is actually arguably equally efficacious when compared to lithium, is valproate. Okay, so we have seen various mechanisms of actions for valproate. We saw that valproate can inhibit sodium channels, calcium channels, GABA receptors when it comes to anti-epileptic activity. But when it comes to the management of bipolar disorders, the valproate has a specific mechanism of action which matches with the lithium. We will see about that. We already saw that the efficacy of valproate is equivalent to that of lithium, but valproate is usually preferred over lithium in mixed states and rapid cycling forms of bipolar disorders. Valproate can be used in the management of acute mania, of course along with lithium. Sometimes they do say that valproate works better in acute mania. Valproate can also be given in the maintenance therapy as good as lithium. It can be combined with lithium also if the monotherapy fails. As I already told, it is the inhibition of GSK3 activity which is similar to that of lithium, and this inhibition of GSK3 has a neuroprotective effect in the management of bipolar disorders. Valproate can also cause inositol depletion. The other drug which is used in the management of bipolar disorder is carbamazepine, but there is no evidence of GSK3 inhibition of carbamazepine, but carbamazepine can cause inositol depletion. Okay, carbamazepine may be used to treat acute mania and also for prophylactic therapy, but they are tried only when the pharmacotherapy fails with lithium and valproate. So carbamazepine may be used alone or in refractory patient in combination with the lithium. Let's say if the patient cannot tolerate valproate, and in treatment refractory patients, carbamazepine can be combined with lithium. Again, TDM is required for carbamazepine, where the concentration has to be maintained between 3 to 14 mg per liter. So other drugs which are used in the management of bipolar disorders are lamotrigine. It's usually not preferred during the active episodes of mania or depression, it's used only as maintenance therapy. When the first line lithium and anticonvulsants like valproate fails, then we will go for antipsychotic drugs like aripiprazole, chlorpromazine, olanzapine, quetiapine, risperidone and ziprasidone. They are actually approved by FDA for the treatment of manic phase of bipolar disorders. Okay. Olanzapine plus fluoxetine in combination and quetiapine are approved for treatment of bipolar depression. Okay. So in the beginning only I told that antidepressants should not be used in the management of bipolar disorder because antidepressant drugs precipitate mania. Okay, right. Antidepressant drugs precipitate mania except fluoxetine. That too, fluoxetine should not be given alone, it has to be given along with olanzapine, okay, in the management of bipolar disorders. Okay, so when the patient presents with acute depression, we can give fluoxetine plus olanzapine, or we can give lithium, or we can give valproate. And if the patient was refractive to those therapies, we can give quetiapine, lurasidone and olanzapine. Other therapies which are tried in the management of bipolar disorders are electroconvulsive therapy and omega-3 fatty acids. We can also give ketamine. Okay. Now, when there is an episode of acute mania, of course, as we expect, it can be treated with lithium or valproate. Basically, the goal of the treatment is to depress the elevated mood to normal levels. Okay. Actually, the response is monitored by this Young Mania Rating Scale. I will not go through this rating scale. You can Google it up, or you can explore the scale in uptodate.com. Basically, as if the treatment is successful, the rating will decrease in Young Mania Rating Scale. And the drugs used in the management of acute mania are lithium, anticonvulsants like our valproate, and we have antipsychotics.
The speaker has lost internet connection.
And benzodiazepines. If there is severe acute mania, if the clinician feels that the mania is very severe based upon Young Mania Rating Scale, instead of monotherapy, the clinician can start with the combination of lithium or valproate with antipsychotics. The other option is through electroconvulsive therapy. We can also give benzodiazepines with antipsychotics. Okay. If we talk about the maintenance therapy, as we already saw, the patient will be either started with lithium or valproate, and if the drug works, better to continue the same drug throughout the maintenance. Okay. So maintenance pharmacotherapy usually consists of the same regimen that successfully treated the acute bipolar mood episode. Patients not tolerating the maintenance regimen can be shifted. If the patient cannot tolerate lithium, they can be shifted to valproate. If the patient cannot tolerate valproate, patient can be shifted to lithium. If the patient cannot tolerate both lithium and valproate, they can be either given quetiapine or lamotrigine. Okay. And the third line drugs are aripiprazole, olanzapine, long-acting injectable risperidone. So basically, as I already told, patient usually comes with mania rather than depressive episode for bipolar disorder. So manage the acute maniac episode with lithium or valproate, usually with lithium, and continue the same. And if the patient cannot tolerate the therapy, or if the symptoms recur, go for second line drugs. If the patient do not tolerate the second line drugs, in the third line management, go for third line drugs or go for drug combinations like lithium and valproate or lithium plus anticonvulsants, antipsychotics, something like that. And like any psychiatric disorders, the treatment is usually long term, and the clinician can decide to taper the therapy if the patient is symptomless for more than 2 years of period. Usually it does not happen, but there are various cases where successful withdrawal of the drug or cessation of the drug has been observed. So that's all about the pharmacotherapeutic management of bipolar disorders. So we saw the definition of the definition and clinical features of bipolar disorders, the types of bipolar disorders, how the mania, hypomania and depression are defined, the various drugs used in the management of bipolar disorder, that is first and foremost is lithium, which is given orally, which requires therapeutic drug monitoring. Then we saw about anticonvulsants, especially valproate and possibly carbamazepine, which can be used in the management of bipolar disorders. Then we have lamotrigine. Then we have antipsychotics like risperidone, quetiapine. The only antidepressant which can be used in the management of bipolar disorder is fluoxetine, and that too not alone, in combination with other antipsychotics. Antidepressants alone should not be used in the management of bipolar disorders because it will cause precipitation of acute mania. Thank you.